Hi all, so I just wanted to make a video explaining in more detail and going into a specific example based on, oh, sorry about the light here, it's the car, it'll go once I find another angle. I wanted to describe in more detail and analyze a topic that I brought up in a previous video about the existential paradox of self-defeatism, where I tried to make rational sense out of people's hypocrisy or group hypocrisy. So specifically in this video, I wanna try and resolve or explain how Antifa are fascists. So how are anti-fascists fascists? How can you call them that? You know, how can someone who's against a certain thing be the very thing that they're against? All right, that's what I'm going to try and explain to you today. And with modern day Antifa, their target seems to be fascists, and by fascists, by the very claims that Antifa themselves make, they're trying to stop something similar from the Nazi government from coming into power, right? So they're against white nationalists and white supremacy and Nazis. That's what they say that they're against. And the information I'm going to refer to is from the ADL's website. The ADL is the Anti-Defamation League, who exist pretty much predominantly to call out and expose hate speech and hate crimes against the Jewish community, which would specifically be tied in with traditional fascism, traditional white supremacy and Nazis and stuff, yeah, because that's where the core demographic or the core idea of fascism stems from, mostly anyway. So the Anti-Defamation League, their page on Antifa says that Antifa have expanded the definition of fascism. So right there, you should be able to see where I'm going with this, right? Because if you change the meaning of a word, then like history doesn't, you can't refer to history anymore if you change the meaning of a word. You know what I mean? You know, it's sort of like it opens a door of thought and possibility that wasn't open previously, yeah? So the ADL says that Antifa have expanded the definition of fascism, and they're now targeting people who aren't white supremacists or white nationalists or Nazis, and they're targeting people who support Donald Trump or wear a red MAGA hat, or they just anyone that they think might oppose their ideology, which is very much in line with what a fascist regime would do. Now, fascist regime would attack and censor and silence anyone who spoke out in opposition to the fascist regime. Yeah, if you didn't agree with the fascists and you were open about it, then they fucked you up, right? They would attack you. They would silence you. And that's what Antifa's doing. They're going around stopping old people from walking across the street because they think they're Nazis. They're smashing people over the head with bike locks because they think that they're their political opponents. This is, you know, unprovoked, and this is just their reaction to the way people are dressed or the way people are talking or what they're saying, right? And when I say what people are saying, I'm not talking the threats of violence. I'm talking expressing your opinion. Yeah, they respond with violence to that sort of thing, and they try and shut you down online. So the ADL website goes on to say that the violence and methods that Antifa use often sees them go into a cycle of blame and finger pointing and accusations that lead them into gets them stuck into a cycle of self-defeat. And then it goes on to say that most civil rights organizations, for that reason, they consider Antifa to be a counterproductive movement. So you've got it right there. So, like I explained in my existential paradox of self-defeatism video, sometimes it's important to not get caught up on people's stated intentions, and you got to look at their behavior as well. You don't just look at what they call themselves or label themselves as. You don't just look at what they say they're going to do. You look at what they're going to do. Yeah? Because especially if the thing that they're doing is opposite to what they say they're going to do, then you got to look deeper. So by their own methodology and by the outcome of their own actions, Antifa, after expanding the definition of fascism, end up hurting themselves and being counterproductive. So you could say that they are their own enemy. So in that regard, you can see why it makes sense to be able to say that Antifa are fascists. If someone turns around and says, oh, you're just using a retarded definition of the word fascism, well, buddy, I'm just using the same definition that Antifa uses. So, you got to look through the mind of criminals sometimes to know how criminals think, and to know what their next move is, and to know what their subconscious underlying desires are. Because the surface value stuff gets thrown in the water. You can't rely on that. So these people who go around saying that, obviously Antifa they're not dangerous because they're anti-fascist. It's in the name, anti-fascist. So if you're against Antifa, that means that you're for fascism. It's like, no, dickhead. That's a purely superficial and judgmental way to look at things. We were taught in primary school the age-old saying, don't judge a book by its cover, right? And we were told that, and as adults we say that to prevent open-minded children from doing dumb things and being judgmental and being discriminatory. But it seems like these Antifa people have become even dumber by ignoring that. They've become dumber than open-minded. They've become regressively minded, and they're judging a book by its title, let alone the fucking cover. And the people who defend them, I'm talking about, they'll operate under the premise that the context of someone's behavior, or the contents of someone's character can be overlooked because they call themselves something. So by that logic, I can say that my name is Mr. Innocent, and therefore I can never be found guilty of a crime, which is just, it's messed up logic. It's dumb logic. Like even I think even like a 5 or 6 year old would be like, you're just playing tricks with me. Nah, that doesn't work. I think you gotta get past that level of awareness where you know that Santa Claus doesn't exist, and then you should have enough common sense to not have to make that defense of Antifa. So there it is. That's that's it in a nutshell. And that's what Antifa's been doing lately. They've been going around beating people up, burning buildings, setting stuff on fire, destroying property, trying to oppress and suppress and limit people's freedom of movement and freedom of speech, and try to twist their freedom of thought even. And it overlaps and marries with traditional fascism quite a bit. One of the major differences, though, would be that traditional fascism involves nationalistic ideas, i.e., like, you have pride in your country and you think your country is better than other people's countries, you think lesser of other countries, that kind of idea, or other nationalities or other races. And that lends to kind of racism, it kind of lends to it. But it doesn't. Nationalism doesn't always have to be racism, but it can lend itself to that. The difference is that with Antifa, it's an ideological thing, not a nationalistic thing. So they have pride in their ideology. If you don't say or think the way they think, then you're the enemy, and you are inferior. So that I think is probably even worse than the racism that might come out of nationalism, because it's discrimination based on opinion, not based on, it's just, I think it's even more messed up. Arguably, if you say that it's equally messed up, I'll agree. If you say that it's more messed up to be racist, perhaps. I don't think there's a way to measure it. But that's my opinion, and don't hate me for it. But there you go. Antifa are fascists by their own definition and by the outcome of their own actions. I hope that explains stuff for you guys and helps you see things in a slightly different way, where sometimes it's important to disregard people's stated intentions. Love and peace. Love everyone that watches this video. Even if you hate me, I love you back. No need to like or subscribe. Just fill my inbox with nudes, please. See ya. Oh, and I just wanted to add, there are some people who go around saying, well, Antifa's not a group of people. It's just an idea. I think Joe Biden said that recently, where he ignored or dismissed any sort of violence or rioting that's occurring, and he said that Antifa's just an idea, man. Come on, man. It's like it doesn't matter. Like, you can have a bad idea, and it can cause a lot of damage. A bad idea is something that can demoralize people, and you put a bad idea into a child's head, and they'll get right and wrong mixed up, and all sorts of shit will ensue. So it doesn't matter if people say it's just an idea. If people follow a bad idea, it's going to cause a problem. Peace out. Love you all. Hold on. There's one other thing I forgot to mention, right? If you want a more directly practical example of this self-defeatism, what they did, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, who are another Marxist sort of group that sort of overlap, and they do their rioting together. When they took over a few blocks of Seattle, because you can take over blocks of cities under a fascistic government, right? That's sarcasm. Pretty much the first thing they did was they created racially segregated areas where people of certain skin colors can go into these areas, but if you're not a certain skin color, then you have to stay out of that area. And they had like people guarding those areas so you couldn't go in there, right? Unless you was of a certain skin color. Now that's in 2020, and the same thing was happening in the Crow era in America. What was that? Would have been the 40s, 50s, 60s maybe, where, if you were a certain skin color, you had to sit at the back of the bus, or you couldn't use a certain bathroom. You had to use a different toilet, or you couldn't drink from the same water fountain as people of different skin colors. So racial segregation by skin color, is exactly what Black Lives Matter have tried to, and Antifa have tried to push into existence when given control. Madness, self-defeatism, hypocrisy. It's crazy stuff. Yeah. Try and figure out why. Yeah, you got to come up with your own theory. Why? What's the underlying mindset of these people that causes them to be such hypocrites? See ya.